Repercussions are at the heart of The Witcher 3. While the overall story doesn't deviate too much, the most exciting moments for me are when you make a decision with Geralt and then have to deal with the repercussions. Sometimes these are immediate, sometimes they take a while to transpire, some quests have no actual repercussions, and then some quests are like a full house of repercussions. The side quest Return to Crookback Bog is an example of the latter, and while it's far less heartwarming than Full House, it's a much more appropriate subject for a Witcher 3 quest analysis. This quest starts up after you've completed the Family Matters and the Ladies of the Woods quest, with Geralt discovering that Anna Strenger is being held by the crones of Crookback Bog, and that Phillip Strenger, aka the Bloody Baron, has declared he's going to go and rescue Anna. Geralt heads to Downwarren to rendezvous with him. They march into the bog together, fighting all sorts of necrophages and a fiend. They meet up with Philip's daughter, Tamara, before finding Anna where she's not in the best of shape. The quest then deviates a bit, with Geralt being more hands-on with Waterhag Anna and less micromanaging with Mudpie Anna. And things come to a close with Geralt returning to Crow's Perch, where the Baron's fate is revealed. So I want to emphasize how unique this is, because this is a side quest, and it's totally skippable, and it has really nothing to do with any of the main characters, and yet the repercussions work so well. Much of that comes down to how perfectly realized the character of the Bloody Baron is in this quest as well as in prior quests. And I'm going to start off by talking about the ending to one of those prior quests, Family Matters, because CD Projekt Red weaves their quests in and out. You learn all about the Baron and his family struggles in Family Matters. Then that quest takes a break and you learn about the crones and what's happened to the Baron's wife in Ladies of the Wood. Then Family Matters starts back up. You talk to the Baron, and Return to Crookback Bog begins with the Baron riding out to the swamps. This is complex, but Family Matters and Ladies of the Wood are so tonally different. By intertwining them like this, it helps sync up those tones so that everything feels cohesive as we head into Return to Crookback Bog. But this means I have to talk about the ending of Family Matters a bit in this video first. Geralt reveals how Anna found herself in Crookback Bog, and then reveals the details of the pact she entered into with the crones.
A pact? What the bloody hell?
She was with child, a child she didn't want to bear. Went to the crones for help. They promised to rid her of the problem in exchange for a year of her service. And they kept their word, in their own twisted way.
What do you mean?
Anna must have thought the child inside her would somehow disappear. Instead, the crones sapped her of strength and ultimately forced her body to miscarry. I think that's when she started to lose her mind.
Wow. All throughout Family Matters, you could feel for the Baron, but it was still kinda cut and dry that he killed his unborn child, accident or not. But now it's revealed that that child might have died regardless. The crones would have found a way. It just deepens the empathy I feel for the Baron. And it just keeps on getting deeper because the Baron reveals to Geralt more about his and Anna's relationship and how they got to where they are.
It was one battle to the next, one conflict after another. It was a life of war. I was seldom home, and I found comfort in drink, while Anna sat alone with the babe for months. Later, I learned she'd not been so alone after all. One tussle in the hay I'd have waved aside, put it out of my mind, but the woman cuckolded me for years, without a whisker of concern for me, for my love.
That is messy, and it gets messier still when the Baron confronts his wife's lover.
I slaughtered the shit-eating twat and fed his carcass to the dogs. She flew into a fit, hysteria, threw herself at me, kicking and clawing. Finally grabbed a knife. It would have been the end of me if I'd not leapt aside. It was the first time I hit her. I had to calm her. Felt I had no other means. Things changed. They would never be the same.
Yeah, things changed all right. Anna and Philip fell into a cycle of abuse, both physical and psychological. And I don't think there's any clear bad guy, or at least I don't think either of them is any less toxic than the other. I empathize with them both. I should mention that the game gives you a choice here to not hear the Baron out. And while I empathize with the Baron and I want to hear every little bit of his story, there are others who just think he is completely irredeemable. And I think it's a good thing that CD Projekt gave the players the option to just say, I don't want to hear you, man.
Sorry, but your life story, just not interested.
Now, Family Matters ends here, but there's a quick Siri quest called Out of the Shadows that starts up. And to sum it up really quickly, she uses her Elder Blood powers to save the Baron's life, which forces her to pack up and head to Novigrad to lose the Wild Hunt. It doesn't impact this quest at all, but I bring it up because there is one exchange that solidifies the Baron as a deeply flawed but not irredeemable character.
What you did for me, I shall never forget it.
You helped me as well. When your man brought me here. You fed me, cared for me, had my wounds looked after. We're even now.
So all of this character groundwork is laid out so that Return to Crookback Bog can handle the repercussions. And the first of these repercussions is found in the village of Downwarren. You see, back in the Whispering Hillock quest, Geralt had a choice, what to do with this captured spirit living under this hill. If you kill the spirit like the crones asked you to, when you arrive in Downwarren to meet the Baron, everything is mostly fine, save for these hanged bodies courtesy of the Church of the Eternal Fire. Now, this is grim, but there's no reason for Geralt to feel responsible at all for any of this. But had you not been a good crone lackey and released the spirit against their wishes, well, the Downwarren you arrive in is a little worse for wear.
A black mare came, reared up over there by that hut, and then the madness started. Took a hold of folk. Mothers carrying babes suddenly smashed them against stumps, and the horror.
This hit me like a battering ram the first time I played it. It was so unexpected and so demoralizing, and I just wasn't used to RPGs having such indirect repercussions. Like the Mass Effect series has major world-changing repercussions, but there's usually a straight line going from decision A to repercussion B. Repercussion? Get it? Like the Reapers in Mass Effect? But The Witcher 3's choices, they're ridiculous. Like you have a point A, what to do with the spirit in the Whispering Hillock, and you do something, and then you're like, okay, that might affect your relationship with the crones. That's point B. But little do you know that there's a point C located in the heart of Downwarren, and what happens to that village. But then, unexpectedly, this lady is actually Anna, and there's a point D because the crones don't take kindly to being trifled with, so something may or may not happen to Anna. And then, oh my god, she's married to the Baron, and the Baron cares about what happens to Anna, so her fate is linked to his fate. That's a point E! And that sounds overwhelming, but what it really does is it makes the repercussions in this game feel both profoundly preventable and strangely inevitable, which is how Geralt, the Baron, and his daughter Tamara must all feel when they encounter each other in Crookback Bog, and together they find Anna. And the Anna you meet is completely dependent on that choice Geralt made with the spirit. If he killed the spirit, Downwarren is spared from utter annihilation, but the spirit is unable to rescue the orphans of Crookback Bog, who are eaten by the crones, and Anna loses her mind.
Gingerbread loaf, freshly baked and hot.
Mother.
Clean as a whistle, fresh as a daisy. Go on, whip me. I made it too little. I nibbled it, but just to see if it's firm.
And Geralt's explanation for how she's come to this, somehow this hurts even more.
This is no dark spell, I'm afraid.
Well, what is it then?
She's been through a lot. Lost a child, was carried off by a fiend, lived in the crone's village taking care of children who are now gone. It's left its mark, as it would on anyone.
This poor woman, she was not perfect as her relationship with the Baron shows, but nothing she did warranted the horror she went through at the hands of the crones, all because she was trying to get out of an abusive relationship. Every emotional beat lands perfectly here. Well, almost every one of them.
Pie for dinner. Mood pie.
But even with that cringeworthy bit, this is powerful stuff. Gameplay-wise, there isn't anything for Geralt to do once they find Anna here in this choice, other than the big fight with the necrophages and the fiend. And this makes total sense. Like, what is Geralt supposed to do in this situation? He's a witcher, not a psychiatrist. So Geralt is powerless here, and he's powerless in more ways than one. He can help the Strengers understand what has happened to Anna, but he can't actually influence Tamara and Philip's relationship as they snipe at each other.
I'm taking her away.
She's my wife. She'll return home with me. You're welcome to come with us if you wish.
Don't touch her. We leave this cursed place now.
She's sick, weakened. Where would you take her in this state? Oxenfurt? It would mean her death.
I know how to care for my mother.
I actually think it's subtly brilliant that Geralt's dialogue choices here can't influence the Strengers' relationships with each other. Those relationships have a ton of history and are super messy. Like, why would Geralt just saying something change anything just because he's our vessel for seeing this world? No, that would feel unnatural. Which is why I actually like this moment when the Baron asks for Geralt to defend him to Tamara, and essentially the difference is like one line.
Your business. I refuse to meddle.
Rightly so.
Verily I say unto you that ire and vehemence can lead to naught but one's downfall.
Your father, he wants to find his wife, your mother. Really?
He pay you much to be his yes man?
Verily I say unto you.
Yes, yes, verily I say unto you something something. The point is, Geralt has no influence on the Strenger family's relationship, and this gives those characters more agency as the Baron wants to take Anna to a healer in the Blue Mountains. This sounds like a long shot, but more importantly, the Baron sounds like he's found his purpose. To care for his wife, to help her to heal, and to be there for her and bring some light to his family after having for so long brought nothing but darkness and misery. The writers brought the Strenger's family to life, and with this ending, they have the confidence to allow these characters to decide their own fate.
I will not touch drink. I will find the hermit. And once she is herself again, we will find you.
Swear it.
You have my word, child.
But that's just one ending. What happens if you release the spirit? Well, Downwarren is slaughtered, as I mentioned before, and the spirit does rescue those children, but what happens to Anna? Well, the crones are not happy to have been deprived of their special meal.
We are forgiving creatures, but you allowed the children to escape.
They never wanted to flee. They liked it here. They played.
Your punishment must be harsh. Now silence!
And as punishment, they send Anna to her room. But if they really wanted silence, probably shouldn't have also turned her into a water hag. This is on a whole nother level compared to the other version, because when Anna loses her mind, that's tough to watch, but it's also sort of a natural extension of all that's happened. But this, what did Anna do to deserve this? But all is not lost, because while Geralt didn't get too involved in how to address Anna's fondness for mud pies, he is much more willing to jump in to deal with the Anna who dances seductively behind her daughter, probably because of this hilarious glitch where a random dude dies abruptly. Though it's more likely it's because this is a curse, which is right up Geralt's alley.
Last I was here, she was nothing like this. Crones must have cursed her.
Can you lift this curse?
Not till I know what it is.
She can't have lived here alone. Perhaps there's someone else. Someone who saw something.
Maybe Johnny.
And that's how Johnny gets involved in this quest, because after Geralt does some sleuthing and determines that Johnny got chased out of his normal hidey hole, he finds him, talks to him, and learns that Johnny witnessed the crones cursing Anna.
Then Gran fell to the floor, started screaming and tearing her hair out. Didn't know what to do. So I leapt out of the chest. Thought herbs might help her. The ones she cured the children's aches with. But Gran was no longer herself. She was a beast.
It's interesting that you only get this character development for Johnny with this version. If Anna simply went crazy, we don't get the sequence at all, and meeting this fun-loving godling in a later quest is far less impactful, especially once we learn that the crones are after him as well.
The crones came back. I dropped to my knees and begged him to spare Gran. Bruess piped up first. Naughty boy. Oh, naughty. Shouldn't say no when the sisters want to hear yes. Then the Wispeth says, "Run, boy, run before your legs rot off." They all laughed, and I legged it.
So when you find him later on, it comes as a relief if you had this conversation about Anna's curse. And it's an awful curse at that, because I now realize something very similar must have been done to every water hag you find in the game. Can you imagine living in a world like this? My mom is really sick. Oh no, what's wrong with her? She became a water hag. Oh, I'm so sorry. How's she doing? Well, she's not talking much. She just sort of goes and keeps throwing mud at me. Yeah, not a world I want to live in. Also, this world is home to the Church of the Eternal Fire, who Tamara hooked up with to find her mother. And their leader here is Grodin, who accompanies Geralt to undo the curse. Grodin is like the only decent member I can remember you meeting from the Church of Eternal Fire. He seems to be very reasonable when Geralt asks how he knows all about this ritual.
From tomes on black magic. Initially, we burned any that we found. Recently, we decided it might be wise to read them first.
And going back to the version of this quest where Anna has lost her mind, he's the one who speaks up in the Bloody Baron's defense to his daughter when they are arguing over who will watch over Anna.
Your father can care for her now.
He care? You know him. You know what he did to her.
He swears to be a changed man. And in his eyes, I see true sorrow. Remorse for his sins. He will care for her.
I used to think that Grodin's inclusion here was superfluous, but now I believe that he's here to show you a different side of the church. because in the next main quest, you're heading to Novigrad and you're going to meet a whole lot of crappy individuals from the church there. But back to the task at hand, this moment with the dolls is the only moment in the quest where a decision you make in the quest impacts things. Basically, pick the right doll and Anna is transferred back into herself. Choose the wrong one and Anna is literally toast. And while I enjoy both alternatives, I don't actually like how the actual choice is handled. I don't understand why Geralt doesn't just run back upstairs and bring Tamara or Phillip into the house. Why make this choice on your own? They know their mother or wife. You don't know the woman. So that's a plot hole, but I guess I'm fine with that because, I mean, it increases the drama. Geralt has to make this choice. It's really intense. But that tension is kind of undermined when the choice of the dolls is super easy. One doll might be Anna's because it's got a similar necklace to Anna, but Grodden's argument for why it's not is convincing.
Anna wears a string of those around her neck.
As do half the women from Novigrad to Vengerberg. This cannot be the one.
Then the doll with the feather is for some reason Philippa Eilhart's doll, as Geralt discusses at length. Then this doll with the ear is so obviously not Anna.
One of the peasants, doubtless. Anna still has both her ears.
Let's look at the others.
So that leaves this doll with the flowers.
What's so interesting in that?
Not just any flower. A violet hollyhock. Baron once told me it was Anna's favorite flower.
Like, how is this a challenge? Like, you'd have to make this mistake on purpose, basically, to choose the wrong doll. And for Geralt to do it, he'd have to either be really stubborn.
This cannot be the one.
And I think it is.
It's Anna! What have you done?
Or Geralt would have to be really lazy.
But what if it's a ruse, and this doll, in fact, symbolizes Anna?
Fine, I'm taking this one. Sure as hell hope you're right.
As do I.
Or you'd have to have zero dignity, which is why I couldn't even bear to record footage of him picking the doll with the ear. But as much as I didn't like the actual process of making this decision, the reactions of all of the characters when Geralt picks poorly, it just works so well.
What have you done? You were to save her. She burst into flames, hear me? My mother burned alive.
I'm sorry. Didn't know it would end this way.
You're sorry. You're sorry. And you? Will you just stand there? You hired this murderer. Have you nothing to say? Did you care that little for her?
This ending is so brutal and sudden, and between Tamara's tortured anguish and the quiet guilt of Phillip Strenger, this is incredibly powerful. It almost makes me forget that the choice that leads to this ending for Anna Strenger is so asinine. Now, should Geralt choose correctly, Anna is transformed back to her human form with her mind seemingly intact. But of course, there are some things that can't be reversed.
All will be well. You're going to be fine.
Tammy, I'm dying.
She's not well. Raving. Doesn't rightly know what's happening.
No, listen to me. The crones. I was to be their beast to the end, forever. You broke their spell, but now I must go.
This is a surprisingly tender ending to this story. I mean, Anna's going to die here, but it's also the only ending where the Strengers are not at each other's throats. It actually feels like they're a family for once.
Dear daughter, Philip, it's good to see you together.
I'm sorry, Annie. For everything.
So this seems about as heartwarming as a story like this can get. But unfortunately, there's more to come, because while Tamara leaves with Grodden and the church, Philip is left alone and despondent, and the way he departs shows a bloody Baron at his lowest point.
Leave me be. Your pay will await you at Crow Perch. Collect it there.
Anna may have forgiven Philip here, Geralt may empathize with Philip, and even Tamara might be on the way to fixing her relationship with Philip, but the one person who can't forgive Phillip Strenger is Phillip Strenger, and he can't live with that guilt. This is Philip's fate regardless of if Geralt lifted the curse or not, but this feels awful. And in a quest where gut punches are followed by more gut punches, this one hits like a crotch punch. So the Baron's character arc is infamous amongst gamers and gaming media, But the repercussions for Tamara are subtly harsh as well, because she is now beholden to the Church of the Eternal Fire, who she joined to get away from her father. And as good of a guy as Groton seems to be, this exchange really hits home for me about how Tamara may have traded one harsh life for another.
I shall go with you.
That's impossible, sadly.
Why?
You have duties. Duties deriving from your commitment to the Church of the Eternal Fire. Once we finish our work in Velen, we return to Oxenfurt.
So Tamara's story feels like the story of a young girl who loses herself due to circumstances outside of her control, and that's gut-wrenching. So this video is already 20 minutes long, but there are some negatives to this quest I want to touch on. The first one I'm not even going to talk about because it's from that ending of Family Matters. It has no bearing on Return to Crookback Bog, so why should I talk about how shoehorned Uma's inclusion is and how it might be the sloppiest bit of writing in the entire main quest? Here's an actual complaint about Return to Crookback Bog. Where are the crones? It feels like the quest is constantly building up to a confrontation with them.
Crones have sensed us. They know we're close. Before we do anything, we've got to get her out of here. Crones know we've come for her.
That's a lot of foreshadowing when all they end up doing is taunting you during this fight. And that taunting is pretty much illegible. Now I get why they don't show up here. If they did, Geralt would probably have to fight them, because if it was just a creepy conversation, it would be a repeat of Ladies of the Wood. But if he fought them, then likely he'd have to kill them, and then how could they reappear in the main quest down the line? So it's disappointing, but understandable. Okay, understandable is not the word I should be using for the crone's dialogue here. However, what is understandable is that the combat is nothing special in this quest. Walk through the bog, drowners or water hags jump out, you fight them, rinse and repeat. Literally, because you're in a swamp. It's underwhelming and repetitive. Sure, you get the occasional rot fiend, and the big non-rotting fiend turns out the lights briefly, but still, gameplay is not what I turned to The Witcher 3 for. But like I said, it's understandable that the gameplay was subpar because that's how it's been throughout the game. Less understandable are the really melodramatic animations that play at random points to elaborate on Geralt's decisions.
It doesn't matter who posted the notice. The coin has to be right. That's all. Witchers don't debate. Their conscience plays no part. They just get on with it, then pick up the coin pouch tossed at their feet and set off on their way. Folk don't expect witchers to save them from themselves.
What did that mean? Like, that was so vague that it made me understand the themes of the game even less. And the second one has the opposite issue. It spells out what Geralt is feeling when all of this can be understood by the player just by playing the game.
When I chose to save the orphans of the swamp, I couldn't know Anna would die, and I never thought the Baron would leave his wife where she lay, find a rope and hang himself.
Of course Geralt didn't expect that. The player didn't either. Did we really need a fancy animation for it? And maybe the weirdest part is how they are just so awkwardly inserted in the middle of conversations.
He was what he was. A right bastard. But I respected him.
If I'm to choose between a greater and lesser evil, make your choice and never look back.
Lost everything he cared for. No surprise he lost the will to live.
That is a nice way to destroy the flow of your script. Like, imagine if I was ending this video by asking you guys to like and subscribe to my channel, and then suddenly it cuts to an animation. Imagine a world where Witcher 3 quest analysis videos can be impacted by the choices you make. And you're imagining a world that I live in. Because you see, I made a choice to end my video like this. Was it the right choice? Who knows? We'll never know, because time is an enigma. And then it just comes right back to me and I act like nothing happened. How would that feel?